Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Hurdle the Line. This is the preview show. As ever, I am your host Fletch, and joining me today, let's not tell Karl, because I'm only joined by one. Let's not tell Karl. I've got the important one with me this week, especially considering the topic that we will be discussing. I have Sam with me. How are you, sir?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm looking forward to the divisionals that are going to be coming up, and with college football now over for the year, I just can just focus on the NFL now.
Because you can. I was hoping one more game, one more college football game. We've got a really, really exciting weekend of football, extended weekend of football. It's like a football bank holiday weekend ahead of us with the divisional games, and we've got the college football national championship on Monday night. That I think, well, there's a couple of members of the network who are very, very happy with the matchup, and then there's us. Um, but first, before we get going, I'd like to introduce you all to our main sponsor. That's Fantasy Game Day, the first and only NFL daily fantasy app made by UK fans for UK fans. Create your lineup, manage your budget, compete against fellow UK fans, some podcasters and content creators, and maybe even win some money in the process. Just head over to fantasygameday.app. Karl is normally on hand to show us where the link is, but Sam's got it. Sam's got it. It's down there. And unless you're listening on audio only, then it's in the show notes. Download the app, sign up, and upon sign up, use code HRDLE. Yep, that is HRDLE, hurdle without the U.
However, there's no hurdle the line without you.
And receive a free play worth £7.50 when you deposit and play for the first time. You must be over the age of 18. Please gamble responsibly. No practice there whatsoever. Just pure intuition there from Sam to do that. Before we get on to the divisional games, which is the most exciting part of this week, there are a couple, I guess, little bits of news or little topics and things to discuss. The biggest thing going on outside of the playoffs is the head coach hiring process. You may have listened to our review team. I hope you listened to our review team on Monday talk about the Patriots hiring Mike Vrabel. The prodigal son has returned. We were hoping, really hoping that we could have Karl today to talk about this because obviously it pertains to his team. But what were your initial thoughts on the hiring there, Sam?
I think it's a good hiring. I think he's a out of the ones that are available. If you're going to go for someone who's a seasoned coach, he was probably up there as the number one pick, bar what I would now say is probably been Mike McCarthy, obviously with all the issues that have happened with the Cowboys. But before obviously all of that happened, I would say he was the number one guy if you wanted an experienced head coach. I think if you wanted someone who's a lot more exciting, then obviously there are others out there. But I think he's for where the Patriots are now. I do think there is a little bit of lost identity maybe with them at the moment. And, they don't seem to be, obviously, for years it was the Brady and Belichick show. And then after that,
Yeah.
it was the Belichick Peter off. And now it's sort of the new era. And I think a bit like how Arsenal were in our football is we lost our identity and they need to find one of their own to bring back that identity and to try and
Yeah.
find who they are again. So in that sense, no better person to bring in than someone like Mike Vrabel, because he knows what he's doing. He knows who he's,
Yeah.
he knows the franchise, he knows the fans, he just knows what it means to be a Patriot. So I think it's a good signing, and I think it's good from like what we were mentioning last week that it's good for the Patriots didn't just come out and announce it straight away after doing his interview. They gave
Yeah.
themselves the ability to talk with others
Yeah.
and then go back to Vrabel when they decided he was the right choice.
Yeah. It's one of those funny ones. I think for me, you mentioned there, some of the comparisons you could potentially put to a team like the New England Patriots, and they always get likened to Man United,
Yeah,
and sadly, Jared Mayo was their David Moyes, and now they found their Louis Van Gaal. I just hope they never get to the Jose Mourinho, although that would be hilarious because the whole thing was a shit show. Although he did win them some, won them a couple of trophies.
yeah, but imagine when it gets to the Eric Ten Hag stage.
Oh, and if they get to this stage again now, it'll just be too funny.
Yeah.
But no, I completely agree. I think last year when Belichick retired, or well, left the Patriots, um, and Mike Vrabel became available, I think everyone sat there a bit like, well, come on. The stars could not have aligned any better. It's Vrabel. I mean, Vrabel walked out with that. Well, when he was fired from the Titans job, everyone kind of went, "Well, he's just going to walk straight into another head coaching job because he never even deserved to be fired in the first place." And then that happens, and they have Jared Mayo. They let that be for another year. Do you think sometimes in a situation like that after a Belichick, and I want to throw back to a Man United and David Moyes type situation where you have a head coach for so long, you have a manager for so long, they're so ingrained in in such a successful franchise or team. You, with all due respect to Jared Mayo, you need a fall guy.
Mm.
You need someone to just that it has to be a rocky 12 months after. You just have to. It's what Bill Belichick was the Patriots. He did
Mm.
about four different jobs and then do you think sometimes you just have to go through that period of and someone has to take the blame and someone
Yeah,
has to
I
cast into the net?
think the thing is with the NFL more so than with obviously we would make comparisons with our football. The thing with the NFL is you don't get it as much in football, but the NFL has cycles. Like there's a lot more cycles to the way that the NFL works because of the way the draft works, because the way contracts and everything work in the NFL. So when you have a team that is so dominant for so long, you're always going to have a point where they're going to have a downturn. At
Hmm.
some point, the Chiefs are going to have their downturn, probably after when Mahomes leaves and then obviously when Andy Reid goes. You're going to have a downturn. It's inevitable with a
Yeah.
team that is so dominant. And
Yeah.
they pretty much lost. Once Belichick had gone, they'd lost everything. They were already sort of losing pieces, but once he'd gone, that was it. You lost your final piece to that sort of like, I suppose, that crowning era of just pure domination.
Yeah.
It was always going to be a struggle for Mayo to be able to develop anything out of that year. And this is why I think it's a bit harsh that they got rid of him because he literally was left with a bag of shit, is the only way I can describe it. It was a bag of shit he got left with. And he's been able to pick up a quarterback, which I think was his point. They were always going to look at bringing in a young franchise ready or franchise potential quarterback
Yeah.
because they needed it. And they did that. I think, Drake May has the potential to be their guy, but now they
Yeah.
need to build all the other pieces around it. And whether Jared Mayo was right for that part, I don't know. Maybe they were, say, just using him as a stepping stone between bringing in Vrabel, and Vrabel was always going to be the long term choice. If so, I find that extremely harsh on Mayo to be that guy. But like I say, there was always going to
Yeah.
be that guy if that was the choice. It just happened that it was Mayo. But I think he could have been given another year because this is a complete rebuild, and I'd make the argument that sometimes when such an institution for so long, you need a complete refresh. Mike
Yeah.
Vrabel isn't a complete refresh. It's just creating Belichick 2.0, and whether that works or not. I mean, like we say, they've tried that in many other places, especially obviously in football. They tried David Moyes. They thought Moyes is going to be the 2.0 of Fergie, and it fell down like a bag of crap. So, I can understand why they've gone for it. I do think he's the best option in terms of experienced head coaches. But could would they maybe look? Would it have been better for them to have a complete refresh and complete rebuild and complete overhaul of who the
Yeah.
Patriots are? Possibly.
Yeah. And I do believe it was built into Belichick's contract or built into Mayo's contract that he would be this immediate successor to Belichick. So what we're basically realistically saying here, um, is that he got the job on the technicality of a legend who recommended him. That ladies and gentlemen, is an elite reference, and I don't care what, but that was an elite reference back to. Do you know what? Go find it for yourself. That was one of the greatest. That was the one of the greatest eras of English football content creation before everyone tried to replicate Arsenal fan TV and and what was it? Were they Full Time Devils or whatever that channel was? Um, but as you've mentioned already as well, Mike McCarthy is out in Dallas. That was spoken about on the review show as well. And I just wanted to bring up a couple of ideas to you. And I think you and I, in particular, are the best people to talk about this one on this show. Not necessarily overall in Hurdle the Line, but especially this week. As we know, Karl isn't as big on college football. And one of the big names that has been put forward for the Dallas Cowboys job is Coach Prime himself, but he's also being tipped as potential for the Raiders job, but also the Cowboys job. And sources have confirmed, not my sources have confirmed to me. I don't have sources. We're not that special here at Hurdle the Line. The Coach Prime and Jerry Jones have had a phone call this week. What do you
Yeah,
think?
I think if you take it on face value, don't take it on his name, take it on face value. What he's done at Colorado has been great this year. I don't think anyone can deny what he's done in turning around the college program in terms of giving them discipline, overhauling the whole team, bringing in a style that he wants is great. But college football is not the NFL.
Yeah.
Can he do it? He's got zero experience at NFL level, and there's no guarantee that he will come in and he'll work wonders. Now he'll probably be good. He'll probably do a good job. Do I think that he should be going to the Cowboys or the? It feels a very Raidersy pick if they did go and take him, especially with the fact that they have got the number 2 pick, and he is basically on the board
Yeah.
and available in terms of his son. So it could be that they're trying to run it back, and now that he stepped up, have his sons step up and be his quarterback. And we already know that you know Prime has already said that he will. He has told teams that if he doesn't want his son to go to said team, that he
Yeah.
will not be going to said team. If he becomes a head coach, does he immediately go, he's mine? Potentially.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It feels like it's a name pick rather than a let's go for the best coach pick.
Yeah. Um, I think it'd be interesting. I was thinking the other day. Now I've been listening to a lot of college pods and things like that the last few days anyway, and I definitely agree and hold these opinions for myself. But I think some of these opinions have been spoken about on previous pods, so I'm not. I kind of feel like I'm out here stealing people's opinions. But a couple of things were like, it isn't actually all that common for college coaches to go to the NFL, become head coaches, and especially ones to be successful. You look at Matt Rule, who recently went to the Panthers, and that didn't end well. Really didn't end well, and now he's with Nebraska, um, with Dylan Raiola and doing what they're doing there. And okay, he's had a good year at Nebraska. Hopefully things will get better when you've got no longer got it. Well, Dylan Raiola's no longer a true freshman building the program there, but he had a bad time in the NFL. You look at what's his name? Went from Ohio State to the Jags um, in 2021. What's his name? Why is it? Oh,
Urban Meyer.
that's the how his name has just escaped my brain. I have no idea,
he
but
he has the funniest name as well.
I know.
Urban Meyer.
I know. And but the thing is, it's not even that. It's also like why he was fired from his job at the Jags after his ninth controversial thing by November. Um, Urban Meyer did not end well. Nick Saban went to the NFL, had a 15-17 record, left with his tail between his legs a little bit. They did college coaches don't generally have a good record of coming to the NFL. Like, good college head coaches don't have a record of coming to the NFL. You've got a cushy job there in Colorado. Maybe it's part of leverage to get a better contract at Colorado. Maybe it's he wants to coach both of his sons in the NFL. And I'm not being funny. Shadar Sanders will make a good QB in the NFL, hopefully, or at least like a good, backup for a year or two, see how he does in a couple of years when he do a Jordan Love type thing with him. His other son, Shiloh, it, it, it,
He's going to
it,
be a sixth, seventh round pick, isn't he? If not a
it
UDFA.
if Deion Sanders is not in a war room, he's probably a UDFA. Let's face it, he's not that
Mm.
good. Deion Sanders coaching in the NFL might be his son's only, might be Shiloh's only opportunity of playing in the NFL here. Um,
Yeah.
and maybe he sees a little bit of that. Um, I don't know. I don't see it. I think he should stay in college and carry on his legacy of
Yeah.
doing what he's doing there.
I think the best coaches, even the ones that come up from college, don't tend to go straight into a head coach role. They will go and take offensive coordinator roles or linebacker roles or QB roles. So something like that, a coaching role
Hmm.
where you learn how the NFL works, how NFL teams are, how they go. And then if things don't then go well, you then either drop back down to college, another head coach job, or you learn, do well, and take a head coach job. Though the way that you see a lot of NFL coaches now is a lot of them aren't even in college as coaches. They come out of their
Yeah.
either playing their careers or previously were injured and go straight into doing college at the NFL level. They don't often coach at college level. And I think the only reason we're going to start seeing more crossovers is with Nil being around. That we'll start
Yes.
to potentially see more crossovers. But
Possibly.
that's a college podcast talk, not a
Yeah.
hurdle the line talk.
Yeah. I mean, well, yeah. But moving on from the, I guess the coach talk, not much else has actually happened. I think one thing, by the way, the last thing we want to say on the Cowboys here is you you and your head coach fell out at the worst time because Aaron Glenn's just and Ben Johnson and any head coach that's worth a damn in this thing, you missed your opportunity to chat to him this week. They're off coaching again now in the playoffs, and most of the potential head coaches and coordinators who could get a job, they've just done a ton of interviews with a load of other teams, potentially come across a job that they really like and really want to play. You've entered the market late, and
You've also entered the market in a really bad way.
it's how do I say this without sounding just horrible and really, really not nice? It's like going to you go out with your mates on a night out, but you catch up to them late, and the girls that you really liked have gone home or left already. You're not left with the selection that you wanted. I think it's like an Ian Holloway. But by the way, legendary football manager purely for his press conferences. It's one of his kind of quotes, but like, are you happy to walk away? Oh yeah, great. I got a head coaching job. Yeah, I got a head coaching job. That'll do. I'm not as misogynistic as I sound, I promise.
The problem is that he's walking in. Whoever gets that job is walking into that job not only with having to deal with Jerry Jones, who, by the way, I think I would I don't, of all the owners and I suppose technically is he technically a GM as well?
Yeah, he's like de facto
He's
GM. I'm pretty sure he's de
just does
facto head
everything, doesn't
coach.
he? Yeah. Of all the people to work with in that role, he would be my worst case scenario because he thinks he knows what's best for the Cowboys And often more than not, it's not. And I think by the way that he's handled the Mike McCarthy stuff, immediately would put off your best options at QB. Sorry, at head coach.
Yeah.
So to me, it's such a I would I do not envy being a Cowboys fan at the moment. I think they are in a right mess.
Yeah. Um, and I don't like the thought of being a head coach and having my owner have his own basically half an hour phone in show where he'll chat shit about you. If he wants to, he will chat shit about you
Mm.
in the public eye on local radio. It's not a great situation. You're right. It's not a great situation to be in. But rather than talking about teams who aren't in a great situation, let's talk about teams that are in an amazing situation. And that amazing situation just happens to be 8 teams in the divisional round of the NFL playoffs. I have calculated 8 football games left of this season for this weekend. Then the college football national championship on Monday. That's 5. Next week we have 2. That makes 7 overall. And then I'm not really counting the Pro Bowl. So we'll add the Super Bowl in there and make that 8 games left this season. What a ride. We've agreed. Given that we both have dogs in this fight this weekend, we'll save the NFC till last and we'll hit with the AFC first. And because we haven't had a chance to talk about them for a week, let's start with the Chiefs and they're facing the Texans. First thoughts on this game on a Texans team who, by the way, most people thought would lose to the Chargers, and they didn't look out of place against the Chargers at any point, and ended up walking away comfortable winners.
Yeah, they're an interesting team of the Texans. It's almost like, can you remember, was it not last year, the year before, when the Chiefs were awful for a lot of the year? Like they didn't have the greatest record, they just didn't play well.
Yeah,
And then the playoffs hit and just it flipped on its head. And all of a sudden the Chiefs were at their best. It felt a bit like that with the Texans against the Chargers. It's like, where has this team been for the last 18 weeks?
yeah,
Because they've not been at that level throughout majority of the season, even when they've had all of their best players available. But that week, their defense showed up when it mattered, and it just made for a absolute bull rush of a defense that just won them the game. And we've said for years that defenses win your championships. If that defense can do what they did against the Chargers, the
yeah,
Chiefs will have a game on their hands.
yeah. And you look at, I mean, we were saying off air that we were looking at the depth charts here. Um, Now, the Houston Texans, from what we've got information wise right now at the point of recording, which is 10 p.m. GMT on the 16th of Jan, the Houston Texans have only filled in Tuesdays because obviously with them being on a Saturday and it's a 3-day window, then a day off. Well, the day before the
I
game.
have got I have got the Chiefs Wednesday and the Texans Wednesday in front of me.
Oh, I don't have the Texans Wednesday. I just have the Chiefs Tuesday, Wednesday, Texans Tuesday.
I've got the Texans Wednesday as well. So,
Okay, so what did the Texans look like on Wednesday?
so
Yesterday.
Alshire is limited. Will Anderson is full practice, which is I think is a good thing.
Yeah, and
Obviously
that'd
for
be two
them.
days on the bounce, full practice as well.
Yeah. Autry is limited, so that's 2 days on the bounce as limited. Uh,
Yes.
Roker, their OG, he's full practice 2 days in a row. Nico Collins, now he doesn't have anything for Wednesday, which is a bit odd,
Not
but
injury related.
yeah,
So
he's
it
got it
says,
down as a resting player.
yeah, yeah. So he would, that'd be, yeah, nothing there. He was basically resting on Tuesday.
Mason was do not practice, he's now limited.
Yeah.
Joe Mixon was limited in practice this week with an running on an ankle.
Uh-huh.
Uh, and then you've got I can't pronounce his name, Quitoriano. He was full practice. Schultz limited. Scruggs limited, and
Yeah.
Robert Woods did not practice two days in a row. So it's
Right.
likely that they'll be without Robert Woods, depending on how he, if he can put in a even just a limited on Thursday, he may be a game day decision. But I would say that it's safe to say that Robert Woods probably is not going to play.
Yeah, probably not. I did 2 days in a bounce, no practice is never a good sign. Um,
Hmm.
I always think the true test of whether a player will play or not normally comes on the what would normally be on any general injury report as a Thursday to Friday designation, whereas obviously on this one it'll be a Wednesday to Thursday designation. If they jump from limited to full or they jump during that time, you normally got a good chance that they'll join. Um, Whereas the Chiefs, well, everyone was full practice for them apart from Nicole Hardman, who was limited 2 days on the bounce. But like I say, today's injury report, when that comes through for them, that'll be the test of whether he'll properly play or not. If he's full today, he'll be in.
Yeah, but I think he's probably whether he's full or not, he's only going to be on limited snaps anyway because he's
Yeah,
now what wide receiver four.
yeah.
So
Um, but that's Chamari Connor, DJ Humphries, Patrick Mahomes, Trent McDuffie, Isaiah Pacheco, Nico Remigio even, Carson Steele, Jawan Taylor, Jalen Watson, and Chris Jones all full practice. That is the benefit of the bye week. Um, where do you think this game could be won and lost? Like,
um,
do is this? I mean, have the Chiefs won this until they've not?
I think so. I think if the Chiefs, the way that the Chiefs play this game is and it's the way they play every single game, is they manage the situation. The only way that they'll lose this game is if they do not control the game, and because that's the way they win games. They just
Yeah.
control the game, control the clock, and that's how they win games. If they can't, and the Texans the Texans can start throwing spanners into the works, then
Yeah.
we maybe could have a few problems. But I think, like I say, with even when Mahomes is not fit, he's still the best QB in the league, and
Y-
that's a problem no matter what. And I think if you've got someone like him, alongside the fact that he now has, because for years
Oh,
we've always said about the fact that they don't have a full list of teams and such.
Samuel, in the last 3 minutes, the Texans have put out the Thursday report.
Oh, and yeah, Mixon's listed as questionable.
Questionable. Aziz Al Shaair is listed as questionable, but that could be because he's competing in UFC at the weekend. Not sure. Joe Mixon,
Did not
Tegan
practice.
Quitoriano, questionable, and Robert
Robert
Woods,
Woods did not
questionable.
practice. So you've got Joe Mixon did not practice. He's gone from a limited to did not practice,
Yeah.
which
That's
isn't a good
never a
sign.
good sign. Never a good sign.
And
Um,
obviously Robert Woods is 3D DMPs, so he won't play, I don't think. Um,
no. Wait, what position is Robert Woods?
Wide receiver.
Yeah, that ain't happening. I don't know
He's
why he's
he's
questionable.
he's it's a hip injury as well. He's about 40, so you know,
That's fair.
expected
Um,
injury. But yeah, I think that basically leaves what Nico Collins with who's the wide receiver two now? Oh, Xavier Hutchinson.
yeah. I'd expect that Chiefs defense to feast a little bit.
Mm.
The
Especially
I,
with that, without if Mixon doesn't play because he is an outlet.
yeah,
If he's not playing, that's a real struggle. It's
yeah.
basically Mixon and Nico Collins and Schultz. That's all they've got, and
Um,
all you've got to do is put three men on Nico Collins all game.
yeah. And one thing you don't know yet is whether playoffs Chiefs will turn up or whether this regular season Chiefs was the true test of who the Chiefs are this year.
Mm.
which will be, I mean, yeah, like you say, I think the biggest thing here is always going to be, can that Chiefs defense against that Texans offense? I don't think I don't see how the Texans get past him. I
Mm.
don't see, and I think that Chiefs defense offense, that even if it didn't turn up properly on Saturday, won't have the most difficult of games. Like you don't need to be at your best. You just need to be efficient.
Yeah,
Um, and we all know that at the end of the day, what you see, like, that well is deep in Kansas. Andy Reid's got a lot of plays there that he's not having. There's no tape for. Um, my one wonder, we saw it in the preseason. Do you reckon we'll get a little backwards behind the back pass action during the playoffs from the Chiefs?
I'm sure that Mahomes will come up with something. He always does. Was it again? Was it about 2 or 3 years ago where they were all doing ring of roses before making a play? Was that was in the playoffs, wasn't
I
it?
think so. I think it was, yeah. Um,
That was weird.
so, oh, that would have been a good idea if I'd have opened the website. I don't. I thought I've opened Bet365 prior. Why am I being? Nope. Okay. Thank you to my VPN provider for some reason telling me I couldn't access Bet365 in the United Kingdom.
I have it here. So at the moment,
What's the line?
Chiefs the Chiefs are -8.5.
Oh dear,
I'd,
that's not nice.
I'd be tempted to take it as well. With the fact that if Mixon doesn't play, I would be taking that because to me, Mixon was the although he got closed down in the against that Chargers. I don't know. If you look at the defense, I mean, you could say, however, you could say, I mean, I think the Chargers defense has been better than the Chiefs defense this year, or at least on level par, and they still put up the points that they put up. So,
Yeah. I also there were a couple of the thing is though, there were a couple of parts in that game where you could tell the Chargers had just got, Jim Harbaugh had not coached an NFL playoff game.
mm.
I mean, obviously, in the last 20, well, just over 12 months, the man has won a national championship.
Oh yeah, get that one in
I
there.
believe. Um, I think. Listen, I'm here to bring facts to the table.
Oh
There's
yeah,
no ulterior motives of the fact that it was Michigan and Michigan were national championships and still hold the national championship title until Monday. Like you could tell that it was a Charger fan, and they made just a couple of mistakes, and they ran away from their run game and fed a little bit into into the Texans, and it worked in the Texans' favor.
mm.
The game was turnover central from the start, though. I didn't even get to watch it until halftime, and I
Oh,
messaged the
it's just
Discord, said, "How's it
yeah,
going?" And you went turnover central, mate.
yeah. It was. It was just if it wasn't picks, it was not getting down on fourth down or fumbles. It was just everything. There was everything you wanted. You know, what we talk about it was all. It was right. It was wrong for all the right for all the wrong reasons.
Yeah,
That was the perfect reason. That first half of just no. Neither team wanted to win it and just wanted to hand it back to the other team to have a go.
you play the Chiefs. No, you play the Chiefs. No, you play the Chiefs. Um, I don't blame him either. Again, if you're going to go into a game like
Yeah.
this more than a touchdown underdog, what about the over under there being 41.5?
Chiefs don't often aren't often involved in high scoring games. They're just efficient.
Yeah,
And if they can, if that defense can hold the Texans or can hold Nico Collins, then I could see. I mean, I'd make an argument to say it could be under the 41. But it is low for an NFL game. That.
Yeah, you're talking though as well, like you have to win 25-16. Yeah, 25 set that's that 25-17. Although that wouldn't be the spread.
25-17 would get the over.
Would get the over, but wouldn't make the spread. Um, yeah, just 17-26. Geez, you can tell like maths is just not maths is normally my strong point here.
Yeah,
Uh, 17-26, and you've covered the over and you've covered the spread.
mm.
Well, that's realistically 26-17 is not a lot. Um,
That's what three touchdowns and a safety and a field goal
yeah.
um, for the 26, and then it's
Or
two touchdowns and a field goal for 17.
or two touchdowns and four field goals.
Yeah,
Which sounds wild, but actually isn't that wild.
yeah,
Two touchdowns and four field goals because Chiefs will probably get in range enough. Whether they can
mm.
put and that again, like you say, it depends on it's some of this is going to depend on which Chiefs offense turns up, and like if they light it up, and Mahomes turns up and he's like, right, you know, postseason Patrick Mahomes is here to play, and Travis Kelce says, right, the world's watching us again now, let's go. And Miko, and all these things start going their way. You just yeah, it could be
I mean, the
different night.
Chiefs have so many weapons on offense now because you've obviously still got Travis Kelce. You've got
Yeah,
Isaiah Pacheco out the backfield. They've still got who's their other running back? Did really well the year before. Um, they always seem to keep lingering about. Um, oh, it's Kareem Hunt, isn't it?
yeah. I'm gonna say Kareem Hunt is on the Chiefs.
Yeah. And then obviously their wide receivers now are DeAndre Hopkins, Hollywood Brown, and Xavier Worthy.
Yeah,
They
and
have they have wide receivers now. I mean, for years we've always said that Mahomes has got it done without wide receivers. He has wide receivers now.
and don't forget Juju Smith-Schuster,
Yeah, he's still got
Justin
Juju.
Watson.
Yeah.
Um,
Noah Gray as well. Noah Gray is a very
yes,
good
you
tight end
can't throw
too.
out Noah Gray. Um, and Carson Steele as well. Just can't not. And that O line has been fantastic for the Chiefs all
Mhm.
year. And
Yeah.
we even spoke when Carl and I were talking about the Pro Bowl votes and how that Chiefs O line, the O lines that were in the Pro Bowl would deserve to be there because they've been brilliant. So, um, yeah, I think either way the Chiefs are going to win it, and yeah, whether they cover or not just depends on which offense decides to turn up. But I don't think either way it's going to be particularly uncomfortable, and then it comes down to whether they win the over as well. Um,
Mhm.
but I fully expect the AFC Championship game to be at Arrowhead next week.
Yeah.
Um, the now it
So
just
that's the Saturday 9:30 game.
yeah, that Saturday at 9:30, and then I say we'll finish off with the AFC and ending the weekend with if I was a neutral, this is the game. This is the
Sun,
one you want to watch.
Sunday is just elite NFL scheduling.
MVP versus MVP.
Mm.
I know it's a regular season award, but does whoever win this get the MVP? Is this going to come down to the winner's probably got the MVP? It's probably who the MVP is going to. Bills, Ravens.
Probably, probably. I mean, I think the vote's already been made. I think,
Yeah.
and I
But
think it's likely that it's going to go to the Lamar by the sounds of it. But yeah, this game is going to be so electric. It's going to be such an interesting game because you've got two quarterbacks who are basically the same person and two running games which are up there as some of the best. The difference maker here, I think, for me, is which defense steps up in this game.
yeah. But
And to to me, the Bills is a better defense.
See, the thing is, though, I think everyone's going to talk about how good both offenses are, and rightly so, right? And you're talking about, again, you've got a 1A, 1B for MVP here.
Mm.
It's everything screams electric offense, but as you said, that yeah, which defense steps up? But let's not pretend like both of these teams don't have very good defenses either. The Bills have a very good defense, and so do the Ravens. That's a damn good defense that they have. And for myself, it's gonna be right. Okay, who makes the one more stop? Who makes the play that takes a touchdown and turns it into a field goal, or takes a field goal and turns it into a punt? That kind of thing is what it's probably going to end up coming down to, is that one play by a defense. Who's going to make it? Like you say, it's who steps up.
Yeah, I think for me, it's in terms of how this is going to go. I think, in my opinion, I do think that the Bills' defense over the season has been better,
Yeah,
but and this is what we always say is playoff football is completely different, and anything can happen in the playoffs.
yes,
And where you have teams that maybe have struggled defensively, or not necessarily struggled, but maybe haven't been as good as they would normally be, it's a completely different game when it comes to the playoffs. And we've
yeah,
seen that with the Ravens last week. I think over the season, if we just include the regular season, Baltimore were so the Bills and Baltimore. If we're looking at them as comparative,
yeah,
the Baltimore was better in terms of total yards per game, in terms of giving up yards per game. So Baltimore were two, four, six, eight, ninth, and the Bills were four, six, 16th. But then
yeah,
if you look at passing yards, both teams are in the bottom quarter, and Baltimore were actually the 31st worst team in terms of passing yards per game.
yeah. Um, well, we'll go on
But they were
that.
they were the number one for rushing yards, which is the interesting part as well, because obviously one of the biggest parts of the Bills game
James
is their
Cook,
rushing game.
James Cook. Um, well, let's put it this way. I've got them all up here. And again, I will say this every time. No, obviously, I'm not one of those idiots who think that PFF is everything, but it's always good as a reference tool. Shut up, everyone who complains. Overall, the Ravens were third in the league by PFF. The Bills are 19th. The Ravens had the number one offense in the league. The Bills had the eighth. Defensively, this is where it'll get you. The Ravens were seventh out of 32.
Mhm.
The Bills tied 27th with the Dallas Cowboys.
Interesting.
That was their ranking per PFF. And
Mhm.
again, one more time, I don't believe that PFF is everything. Take PFF with a pinch of salt. But there's a reference point for what is meant to be an objective measurables. Uh, Special teams wise, though, I will say this: special teams wise, the Bills had the Ravens number here. The Ravens were 30th in special teams grading, while the Bills were tied 13th
Mm.
with the Rams. So both got that going for you. Well done. So,
Yeah, I think I do think to a certain degree, stats goes out the window when it comes to playoffs. Not completely, but I do think it does a little bit.
oh no, 100%.
And I think if I was going to pick a quarterback out of the two in terms of who I would be more comfortable if the running game's not working, where to go, for me, it would be Josh Allen over Lamar Jackson personally.
Yeah,
And if you're looking at the stats in terms of passing yards, Baltimore, like I say, are per yards per game for passing are 30 with 30 where were they? 31st, I think they were, did I say? Yeah, 31st in the league for passing yards per game, allowed passing yards per game.
yeah.
And the Bills were they weren't much better to be fair. They were 30th, 24th. So I don't know. I just think it's an interesting game. And I think if we take stats out of it,
Yeah,
you've got, like I say, two MVP worthy quarterbacks. You've got the number two running back in the league, and James Cook, who I think has probably arguably been a top 10 running back this year, or at least
yeah.
close to it. The Ravens are potentially going to be without their main wide receiver in Zay Flowers. I think he may be out for this game again.
Yeah.
I think if we obviously we'll come on to the injury charts in a minute, but I'm pretty sure he was down as questionable. And the Bills wide receiver core has not been amazing, but surprisingly, what probably a lot of people didn't expect is that I think Khalil Shakir is in the top five, maybe even the second. Was he? I think I heard a wild stat that he was the second highest wide receiver for one of the stats. I think it was maybe yards after catch or something like
Khalil
that.
Shakir.
Yeah, wasn't it?
Yeah,
It was something like he's the second. He was the second highest wide receiver for yards after catch or something. Oh, yard, yeah, or something like
yeah.
that.
Because, and I remember this as well because it was I recommended him as one of my fantasy game day picks against the Lions.
Mm.
Um, because he'd gone on that stretch. There was something like it's like week 8. All of a sudden, Josh Allen started. He started seeing targets, and he was seeing 8 targets a game. It's crazy. He, after 1 week, Josh Allen just started going, "Okay, Khalil Shakir, you go," and he sees so many of those offensive
Mm.
targets now. Um, but yeah, we'll do the injury report first, and then I've got one more point. And I believe, well, because this game's on Sunday, the normal injury report is Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. The only player for the Bills who's listed as limited, two of the players listed as limited, sorry, and they are Alec Anderson, the tackle, who was limited both days, and Ray Davis, the running back, both days limited. The rest, Christian Benford, Brandon Brandon Codrington, that sounds British,
Very
very
good.
British. Amari Cooper, Taron Johnson, Dalton Kincaid, Cam Lewis, Matt Milano, Quinton Morris, Greg Rousseau, and Dorian Williams all full practice both days.
Mhm.
And then, as you said, Zay Flowers did not practice, did not practice. That's never a good sign. Probably will at least be questionable if he's unlimited tomorrow. Probably out. And then Deontay Harter, who is full practice, full practice.
It's likely he'll probably be back, but that's he again. He's not really a guy that they're going to use a lot of. He's going to be probably third, fourth receiver. So, but yeah, I think it should be an interesting game. And we've seen this will be one of those games which will be won probably on defense. Which team can stop the other team?
Yeah. Um.
It depends how much of a wrecking ball Lamar and the Derek double running combo can be.
Yeah. Um. The thing, and here's the thing: Lamar Jackson is 3-4 in the playoffs in his career. Josh Allen is 6-5. Neither of them have lit up the playoffs. Josh Allen, though, I think will be just that little bit more desperate to go and get the Chiefs. Because the
Mm.
Chiefs have been that man's kryptonite in the playoffs. It's, the okay, first playoff game he ever plays, it was to the Texans, they lost, but then they played the Chiefs in 2021 in the championship, lost. Played the Chiefs the year after, lost. Played the Chiefs 2 years later, lost.
Yeah,
The man is desperate to have another shot at Mahomes, and if it's at
yeah.
Arrowhead, I don't think he cares. Um, and it was at home last year, wasn't it? As well, he had him in Buffalo.
Yeah, because they were the number one seed, weren't they?
Yeah. Um, but that would make a tasty matchup if that were to happen. And you say Lamar Jackson, one of his four losses would come to but also his loss in 2021 was to the Bills.
Mm. It's a very interesting. I mean, even if you look at the spread, it's a -1 in Bills in Ravens' favor at the moment. So this is going to come down to it's going to come down to a single play potentially, and
Over
I
under as well.
51 and a half.
I know.
I would be tempted because that's again we're talking if that's a 1 point over under, that's a 26 sorry 27-26 game
Yeah.
or a 26 say 27-25 game.
Yeah, yeah, because you want to cover the minus because if -1 would be or +1 is
Zero
being
be
tied,
yeah.
and overtime. Like the yeah 27 call it 27-25 to the thing is that's a fun game.
And bearing in mind the Bills, I think is it something like the regular season? I think was it maybe at very minimum 13 of their 17 games they scored 30 points or more. Like, if you think that they're going to score 30 points or more, the Ravens, if they're going to win, are going to have to put up that number of points as well. So we could see potential. I mean, I know that playoff football doesn't often bring out 30 odd games, but you're looking at any of those, that's probably going to be one of them that could potentially bring out two teams with 30 points.
And my one question on this one as well, the last question I have on it for you. Some of it comes down to coaching balls. Who comes out with them? Who opens up the playbook? And the thing is, though, and one thing I always notice is you want to save as much as your playbook as possible. Teams do it throughout the season. Let's save a lot of the playbook for the playoffs, and then when you get into the playoffs, you're like, both of them. No disrespect to the Texans, both of them are preparing to play the Chiefs next week at Arrowhead. You're thinking, I don't want to use that hook and ladder this week. I really don't want to have to use that hook and ladder this week. I really don't want to have to pull that end around out. I don't want to have to pull these different plays out of the bag. I want them for next week just in case against the Chiefs. That's where it's going to be most needed. Who's going to have the balls to put it out there? Who's going to make that braver coaching decision? Who's going to scheme that bit better? And if that was the guy, who are you putting that on? McDermott or Harbaugh?
In terms of scheming something, I would say Harbour is probably slightly better. I think his playbook generally is a little bit, I would say, a bit more fluid, and he has a little bit more like when you've got the likes of Lamar Jackson and um, Derrick Henry and two
Yeah.
tight ends who basically are wide receivers, you can
Yeah.
scheme pretty much anything and it'll work. And I think we saw a bit of that against the Steelers. And this is the only thing that I would say against that is we saw the Ravens because most of the year he's not been the main runner. It's not like it's been first play he makes a run, second play he makes a run like we saw against the Steelers in the playoffs. Whereas we saw that happen. Is there an element that Harbour's already shown his hand a bit too early in using that against the Steelers? Whereas we maybe have seen McDermott probably play relatively safe football, but that has worked, and maybe that's where we can maybe see a few differences. Um,
I think as
I
well,
just
though.
think it.
So go on.
I was just gonna say, I just think it's a fascinating game, and it's one I'm really looking forward to watching. To be honest.
Yeah. Well, the only thing I'd say on that is with a team like the Steelers, if you're the Ravens, you've just played them the week
Mm,
before, and then you played them a few weeks before that. You play them twice every year. Yeah, there's not much you can show them that they have now not seen,
mm,
and there's definitely nothing that they didn't see last week. So maybe you do have to pull out a little bit of something, or maybe you do have to pull out and show some extra, just because. You think sometimes, like, yes, a game should play out the way it should. The Ravens have an elite offense. The Steelers have a very good D. That's what the Steelers are built on, but also, the Steelers don't know how to win a playoff game and haven't for 8 years.
mm,
Mike Tomlin can't get them over. There's all these different little factors that play into it, and one of those has to be you're playing a divisional opponent that sees you twice a year, and they've just seen you a week before.
mm.
Um, with the over under so let me ask you this. So let me. Who are you taking in that plus minus spread of 1 point? I'd
Bills.
take the Bills.
I'm taking the Bills just because I think that, and this is why I just think Lamar Jackson has a great year, but he's to me he's not been. I'm going to be very very careful how I say this. I don't think he has been their most valuable player
Derrick
this
Henry,
year.
you think?
I think Derrick Henry has allowed Lamar the ability to open up his passing game.
Yeah,
And I think without Derrick Henry, you probably would see Lamar Jackson have the years that we've known where he's been a little bit low on the passing. Whereas this year, I think it's been the highest year for passing so far.
yeah,
I think it's the first time he's even cracked 4,000. So for me, Derrick Henry is more of a valuable player to that Ravens offense in terms of opening up the playbook more than Lamar
yeah,
Jackson is. Whereas I
and
think Josh Allen is the guy in the Bills.
yeah,
He needs to be the guy to do everything.
yeah, and you've got. I think, in my opinion, as well, when you add on to that, it allows Lamar to rush when he feels creative and he feels it's the right moment and use his
Mm,
legs better in better situationally use his legs rather than need to run it because he's the only one who's going to run that damn football. Um,
mm.
that also really helps. What about the over under at 51.5?
I'm going over. I
I'll
think
join
both
I'll join
teams.
you on both of them.
I think both teams can put up 25, 26 points easily.
Yeah. The one little thing I'm upset with is my little brother, who's a Bills fan. I watched the Broncos game with him at the weekend, and it was nice to actually sit. We barely sat and watched football this year. He's texted me a couple of times. Definitely didn't text me after the Bills Lions game because he's so nice, and as a 14-year-old, would not rub it in my face because he's that lovely. Um, Not bad, but it was really nice to actually sit and watch the game with him at the weekend. Um, with it being 11:30 on a Sunday night, he'll have school the next day. I don't think I'm allowed to go over to him to go over and watch it with him. So so I think I might have to debate whether to, after all the shit he gave me over the Lions Bills game, debate whether I WhatsApp him and just say, "Ha, you won or you lost," or ruin it for him. This game, like 51.5, is not a bad spread. Is not a bad over under, but
No,
it always promises a good high scoring game. But this isn't the highest over under of the weekend.
no.
And now we're over to the fun side of the bracket, the side that actually matters on the bracket, the side where the Super Bowl winner is going to come from in the NFC. And just like we did with the AFC, let's start on the Saturday game with the Washington Commanders at the Detroit Lions.
And the first thing to start with here, and it's the most important part for this discussion, is the injury list,
Yes,
in my opinion. I think that is the most important part of this in terms of how this game could potentially play out.
yes, I agree.
Because there is one guy who has been missing lately who put in, based upon the injury report, put in two full practices.
Um,
And I don't know if they've released Thursdays yet,
they
but
have.
they've put in. And I would assume that he's probably a full again, or he's arrested.
He is. He's full. Um, and I'm glad you noticed that Terry and Arnold is back.
Yeah,
He never
very
really
important
left.
player.
Obviously, completely with along with a Mick Robertson, completely pocketed the bum that is Justin Jefferson a couple of weeks ago. Um, and yeah, very exciting. The Lions out. We have Pat O'Connor, which I'm obviously absolutely devastated about. Potential DPOY candidate, and Kevin Zeitler.
That's a
The
huge miss.
That is a huge miss, to be fair. That's no messing about there. Ennis Rakestraw is questionable after logging two no practices and a limited. Taylor Decker is fine. He didn't practice on Wednesday, but that was for personal reasons. Terry and Arnold and David Montgomery both registered full practices all week. For the Commandos,
Sonic. Sonic is back with his
Sonic.
little buddy.
No, yeah. Sonic is now going to be Knuckles is back. Uh, Thursday, they haven't done specifications, but by the sounds of it, the Thursday. Oh wait, no. I did have it. I did have it. Um, somewhere I did actually have a full.
While you look for that, I'll just go through the commanders in terms of theirs from what we've got for Tuesday and Wednesday. So Bates, I'll get this right if it's the right name. It's the tight end John Bates, not Jesse Bates.
Got it.
John Bates was full. I'm assuming he's full again for Thursday.
Right. Okay. So just show me the graphic, man. Why'd you have to not show me the graphic? So out for the Commanders. I've just got it on the Twitter here, is Jordan McGee,
Yeah, hamstring.
um, Mikhail Walker, and Colston Yankov. What a
What a
name!
name.
What a name! Are both questionable.
See,
Colston
that's interesting because
Yankov.
Yankov was full practice both Tuesday and Wednesday.
I know.
I mean,
Oh, Tuesday,
he's a
Wednesday,
tight
and
end, so
Thursday.
he's going to be a very, very low tight end. It's the one that probably doesn't really
Yeah.
matter. But
Um, I don't. You could quite possibly yank him off the whole thing and no one would notice. Yes, that is where we're at on this Thursday night. Tight end, you can see John Bates. We've got Jameson Crowder, Clelin Ferrell, Frankie Louvu, Ben Sinnott, Bobby Wagner, um, Brandon Coleman, Zach Ertz, Zane Gonzalez, Dominique Campton, Marshawn Lattimore, KJ Osborne, and Darren Payne, all listed as will be active on Saturday.
this should be a really fun game.
It should be.
And I think it will be. I think no. I think probably a lot of people wrote off the Commanders against the Bucks, and they turned
Yeah.
up in that game. And I think that, but I still think this will be one step too farther for the Commanders.
I
I think
just
they'll
don't.
put. I think they'll put points
Yes.
because we know what the Lions, although they have got better, we know what the Lions secondary can give up, and their defense is, although it's getting pieces back, is still relatively hit with injuries.
We say pieces though. The only piece that's come back has been Anzalone. Although you saw against the Vikings just what a difference Anzalone made.
Mm.
It was after Anzalone went out that the whole defense collapsed for a couple of
Yeah,
games, and then he came back, and again
it,
that
it,
bum
it's
Justin
like the
Jefferson got pocketed.
it's like the Dre Greenlaw for the Niners. The moment he came back, the defense switched, and then as soon as he was gone,
Yeah, but none of
collapsed
our
again.
linebackers walked off and said, "I'm not playing anymore." Um,
That's true.
there's always that Anzalone has in his bag that he didn't make someone quit the career halfway through a game.
That's true.
But no, genuinely, from if going through the season, it was quite remarkable. We lost Aiden Hutchinson, who was on a DPOY, a genuine actual DPOY trajectory. Lost him. Think, oh, that's devastating. There's no way we can recover from this. We did what we did. We lost more pieces of that O line, that D line. We lost Aleem McNeil, who'd just been paid as one of the top paid D line D tackles in the league. He's gone. We lost two more linebackers, including everyone's favourite from Hard Knocks a couple of years ago, Rodriguez. Um, we lost a number of DBs. We lost a number of different players, and no matter what, always seemed to still come through and play decent ball on defense. And when Anzalone went, boom, we're giving up 31, 48, 38. It was just horrible. I think the only game we didn't give up a ridiculous amount was the Bears, and that's not really an achievement. I'm sorry, I can't take that one with much
No,
pride,
that's
especially the position they were in. For you though, where do you see this game being won and lost? I spoke with, I know that, oh, but I'll do that plug in a second. But I recently spoke about a friend of ours with this. Um, for me, it's the run game, and it doesn't matter whether David Montgomery's in there or not. I fancy Jameer Gibbs on his own. That Commanders run defense is not great, and the Lions will beat the living crap. And Jameer Gibbs will run all over you. The Vikings defense is is decent at stopping the run, and look what Jameer Gibbs did. So
mm. For me. This game comes down to which can the Commanders keep the Lions in check? I.e., can they stop them getting into an assailable lead where the Lions then basically just go, here you go, Gibbs, here you go, Montgomery, just pound the rock and pound the team into the ground. If the Commanders can keep it within a one score game or can potentially keep the whole game, even keeping the lead for a good part of the game, although that doesn't then stop Dan Campbell from using the run game, I think it does force him a little bit to rely on the pass game, which is still elite,
yeah,
but it still requires them to pass the ball more than probably what they would like to do. And I think that could be where the game is won and lost for me is if the Commanders, which that defense has been solid this year, and if they can keep the the Lions in check and can prevent them from getting too much of a lead to the point where the Lions can basically just go to Sonic and Knuckles, have a go and just deal with it,
yeah,
we could be in for an interesting game. But the moment I think the Lions get a two, potentially three score lead, game's over for me.
yeah. Well, this is the thing though, and this is my problem is the Lions play so physical that I watched the I watched what happens when the Jags came in and thought they could run and try and get a quick lead up on us, and then that turned out the way it did. Watched the Titans do it. I watched 3 4 teams come in and try and start fast,
Mm.
and immediately it's just like, nope, can't keep up that pace against this Isaac. The hits are even harder when you're going as fast as you are. On offense for the Lions, I think it's going to come down to, yeah, the run game. if we can quickly establish that run game, which I think we will do with the even with Zietler out, let that O line cook. Um, they will be fine against that run defense. And then, can you get Jameson Williams involved? Can you stretch that field a little bit? Can you get him to can you force Marshawn Lattimore a little bit further up the field? And one thing I'd like to do, I'm not a big fan of it, but it works sometimes. Jameson Williams don't trash talk enough, but get inside Marshawn Lattimore's head a bit. You saw him against the Bears this year. He got in a lot of trouble against the Bears.
Mm.
Jameson Williams for throwing a ball in I think it was Stevenson's face as he was coming back in after going out of bounds. Like, can you get in Marshawn
And we
Lattimore's
know
head a little bit?
we always know about the Evans Lattimore fights that have gone on over the years. Like
It,
he's easily rattled.
he can be, and if you can get inside his head, cause a couple of personal fouls and whatnot, get some flags thrown,
Mm.
get inside it, things like that can open up the field a little bit. And finally, I think on defense, and this is where it scares me and where I'm very scared to go on the line on this, because I do want to give the Commanders the props. The Commanders are an amazing team. What Dan Quinn's done, what Cliff Kingsbury's done with Jaden Daniels and all that sort of stuff, it can't be understated on how incredible they've been. And I don't want this to sound like I'm just glazing over the Lions because I'm a homer. I've got so much credit to give to that whole entire franchise for what they've done this year.
Mm.
So much. And I think either way, you're going to watch some great football this weekend.
Mm.
The Lions have struggled to contain QBs who can escape the pocket. It's been our downfall against Baker Mayfield.
Yeah,
It was what completely killed us last year against the Ravens. It's what it's done us in on a number of occasions. We can't stop QBs who escape the pocket. Well, Jaden Daniels may be one of the best in the league at it as a rookie. If you need to get, you need to contain Jaden Daniels. You need to, he's got a damn good arm, but you need to force Jaden Daniels to take the game to you with his arm and arm only. Don't let him extend plays. Don't let him, extend the play. Don't let him use his legs. Let Terry and Arnold, let Amit Robinson, let Brian Branch, let Kirby Joseph have at those scary Terry and a couple of his other little weapons, and don't give him time to get those plays off. And it's a lot easier said than done.
yeah. Because even if you do try and double coverage someone like Scary Terry, he somehow still makes catches.
Yeah, yeah,
He is so good in being a physical wide receiver. And I think that this is why I
yeah,
think it's going to be such an interesting game because and why I think, although the Commanders, they only was it 24-20 that they won the against the Buccaneers, but
yeah. The don't.
they just have this ability to stay in games. And
Yeah,
that's just incredible to be able to do. I think the only my only concern is that if, like I say, if they get two or three scores down against this Lions team, it's it'd be that one step too far to be able to get back into the game for me.
the other thing I think it takes off, and I think this is not. I don't think it's going to be the game where we desperately need it. But don't forget now that the Lions have a competent kicker
Mm.
who can kick long field goals in Jake Bates. And I am so proud. That I watched some UFL last year because I felt pathetic at the time. Still feel a little bit pathetic for sitting and watching so much UFL. But being able to turn around to people and say, you need to watch this Jake Bates. Guy
Mm.
can kick. And then he signs for the Lions and does what he's done this season. It's been brilliant. And I can say I was one of the few because like there's about 10 people who watched the UFL last year, so I am one of like 5 people who paid attention and one of 3 people on the whole planet who said check that Jake Bates out. I don't think even
Well,
UFL teams watch UFL.
as soon as Badgley went down, I literally picked up Jake Bates everywhere.
Yeah, yeah. But the Commanders, they have the 15th ranked offense, 29th ranked defense, and 11th ranked special teams, whereas the Lions were 2, 5, and 6.
Mm.
And again, you look at all those injuries to still be ranked fifth out of 32 in defense in various different. They were quite highly ranked as well in DVOA, in all sorts, any different measurable objective statistics. The Lions ranked very highly on
Mhm.
defense. Um, I think you're right. I think this is gonna just be that one step too many. I don't want the Commanders to turn up and just be, wow, guys, look how far we've come. Anything now is a bonus. I want them to want it.
Yeah.
I don't want them to play the occasion. I want them to play the game. But I'm gonna sit there. I'm gonna agree with you. Um,
Interesting one over the spread though, because the Lions have a -9.5, which is a two-score lead.
I say we win the game, but don't cover that spread.
Yeah. I think it'll be something like a 7 point game.
Yeah. I'm gonna say six.
Mhm.
I'm gonna say six. Um,
And again, the over-under is 55.5, which is quite high, I think, for a game. I wouldn't have put this as being the one that would have the highest over-under personally. I would probably put it level with maybe the Ravens and the
mm,
Bills. I think 55.5 is quite high because I mean you're looking at,
yeah,
even with that 9.5, you're looking at what, say a 30, 36-26 would do it. I'm trying to think
yeah,
what else would, maybe like a 30 a 33-23 game would do it.
yeah. 33-23 a ticket to 53.
33-23 would take it to 56.
You're
And that would be
absolutely
a 10
right.
point gap.
You are absolutely right. I've told you maths is clearly not my strong point today. I'm so glad I've not been accepted to go on countdown right now because I would have lost today. As again, that's my round. That's my round on countdown. Give me the over and give me the Commanders to cover the spread.
That would mean that the game would have to be at the very least,
Both teams score on average 28.
yeah. So you're looking at what, like maybe like a 33-27, and that would comfortably cover the spread, but that would be your 6 point differential.
I'm going to say 31-24, but I'd be 1 point out.
Yeah, so you could have a 31-25, and that'd cover both.
Yeah. I'll take it. I'll take it. The final. Well, it's not the final game of the week because it's 8 o'clock on Sunday.
Mhm.
One I'm sure that you are very, very grateful for that this is going to be done by 11 p.m. on a Sunday night.
Yep.
Rams at the Eagles. I've got to ask just to start. There's no way now, no matter what, that the Rams will get another home game because they're the
No.
lowest. Well, actually, no, that's not true.
Well, the
If
only
the
way we could is if
Commanders
the
somehow
Commanders,
beat the Lions
yeah. But
and the Rams,
realistically,
yeah, well, see, realistically, you're not getting another home game. Is
no.
that a is that so, as horrible as this might sound? Is that somewhat of a relief with what's going on in LA at the moment?
It is, yeah, for in terms of what's going on with LA. The one thing I will always say is that SoFi is never really our home in terms of when we're in games. A lot of the time we are
Yeah,
50-50 or outnumbered. We're used to playing as the road team in most stadiums, even in our own.
yeah,
So I always think, for me, the problems are where we get into cold weather, and that's why I think this could be an interesting game because there is talk that there is going to be snow at Lincoln Park, the Lincoln Field.
If only you had, say, a quarterback who was used to playing up north. I don't know in say like what's that division? The NFC North. Which to be fair, he was playing towards the end of that. He was playing in two domes. He's playing all his home games in a dome anyway. Um, but would just somehow be used to being up north though in the cold and in the horrible weather, and may not affect him as much as you would think. If this snow though, I it's gonna come down to a ground game, and I can't look like Saquon
Yeah,
Barkley, the Eagles O
it's all
line.
Barkley then. Yeah, it's this. As I was saying, when I've which it's not out yet, but maybe when this as it will be, we've had. I've obviously similar to you had a divisional talk, well, a divisional playoff game talk about this, and if if the game plays out like it did earlier in the season, I think it was week 12 or week 11,
Yeah,
we will get spanked because Saquon Barkley will be putting up another 300 yards on us. But if we can somehow contain Saquon Barkley and force Jalen Hurts to throw the ball, although he has all those weapons, we stand a chance.
yeah,
But this is we are talking about the team which has the number one passing defense in the league. I think even maybe the number one defense in the league, actually.
I've got the stats up. I can find it.
I
Yep,
think they are the number one
yep.
defense in the
Number one
league.
defense.
They have arguably one of the best O lines in the league. Probably the only team maybe to compete on that level would be the Lions
Yep, and the Chiefs maybe, but
and the Chiefs, maybe. They have the best running back in the league. I would say they arguably have one of the best wide receiver cores, or wide receiver 1-2 punches in the league.
completely agree.
And they have what I would say is a top 10 tight end in the league.
Yeah, don't
So for
can't
me,
give you a lie.
it's one of these games. I mean, I'll be perfectly honest. I'm going into this game thinking we're not going to win this game, and I'm happy with that. We've won a game. We've already been the underdogs of beating the Vikings in a game which everyone was expecting us to lose. So to go into this game again, underdogs. If we lose this game, it's not a big deal. If we win it and be that team that causes the upset, then I I could happen. It wouldn't surprise me if we cause more upsets. If we can cause an upset here, we can cause an upset against anyone.
Yeah,
But I just think, again, similar to the Commanders, I think this is just that one step too far for the Rams. I think we are, although we have such a young defense, we have such a an offense, a defense that is so bend but don't break
yeah,
methodology to it that if you can force Jalen Hurts to throw the ball and then you're going to play bend don't break football against AJ Brown and Devontae Smith, you're just going to break. It's going to happen,
yeah.
and that's the worry that I have. But like I say,
Do you remember those bendable rulers in school that you bend them and you can't break them, and then you bend them and they break straight away?
yeah,
That's how I think of bend don't break defense anyway. Every time I see that defense, it always seems to shatter.
yeah,
Every time I hear that phrase, it just reminds me of those rulers in school where they'd be bendable but not breakable, and every single one would be shattered by the
yeah,
end of lesson one.
yeah.
Um,
It's just I don't know. I've said from the start I don't think we're going to win this game, and I don't think that we I don't see it being like the game that we lost, where I think was it 31-20. I don't see there being an 11 points in this game. I think it'll be a lot closer. Um, they're obviously without Nakobe Dean in linebacker, which I think is a huge miss for them on the defense.
Yeah,
Um, and I think when you have the likes of Puka Nakua and Cooper Cup, who I would say are probably one of the best wide receiver 1-2s in the league, anything can happen. So for me, it's this for me. I think, and this is what I was saying earlier. I think Sunday is going to be such a fun day for football in terms of if you're looking at two games that are which games are going to be the most exciting for me. These two games on Sunday are going to be the most exciting in terms of how the game could pan out. I think the other two games there's a lot more. I have a lot more certainty with the other two games than I would these two.
yeah. Um, I've dropped some PFF grades
Mhm.
here today because I've actually got a little game that I'm planning on to play on Twitter and some of our social media over the off season. Um, that should be a bit of fun. So the Rams, I've got the overall, the offense, defense, and special teams. I've not gone that deep where I'm doing like pass block grades and all that sort of stuff. I can't be bothered going that far. But ranked, they are. Where the Rams go? The Rams are 14th overall, tied ninth for offense, 18th for defense, 13th for special teams, which we've already established in today's episode that 13th tied was with the Bills. Who do you think you were? Can you guess who you were tied ninth in offense with? Just as a guess.
The Seahawks.
No, the Seahawks were actually quite a bit further behind.
Oh, right. They were up at the top at one point. Is it the Bills?
No,
Down.
no. You and this other team are one place behind the Bills together.
Is it the Eagles?
No,
'Cause I would
the
have thought they'd have been
Eagles
higher.
are seventh. So it
Who is it?
goes Eagles, Bills, Rams, and Vikings.
Oh, interesting.
You and the Vikings were both tied for your offensive rankings on
Mhm.
PFF this year for the regular season only.
Mhm.
Um, Ranked number one was the Ravens. Number two was the Detroit Lions. And yeah, there's a couple others. Nothing overly shocking. Like nothing I can see in this list here. I went all season and was like, whoa, that's shocking. Apart from who came 32nd out of 32 on special teams, but who really cares? And that was the Green Bay Packers. Um, but I was like, really?
Which is surprising given the fact that they have Nixon.
Yeah. The best special teams unit was the Bengals.
Where did the Cowboys rank?
Special teams,
Yeah.
they were 18th.
See, that's surprising again because
Yeah,
Turpin was unbelievable.
yeah. Um, the Lions never finished lower than sixth in any of those rankings. That's why the Lions were ranked number one overall,
Yeah.
second in offense, fifth in defense, sixth in special teams. Everyone else was at least ranked outside of the top 10 for one of the others. Um,
What are the Eagles on PFF then?
they were
For
second
all things.
overall,
Hmm.
seventh in offense, first in defense, and 17th on special teams.
Okay. So we're going to win the special teams but lose everything else.
Um, but you don't have to be incredible on offense or defense when you've got 20-yard fields to work with. Just do what you need to do. Get a Blake Corum going.
He's out on IR. We don't have Blake Corum. He
Damn
broke his
it.
arm. It'll be Jordan Whittington. Come on, Whittington.
Oh, well, that's Dan Graz. Well, if there's ever a name wanted to put more trust in this weekend, it would be John Whittington. If you would have asked me, I mean, that was the name I was going to say, and I'm not only saying that name because you've just said it now. I'm saying it because that was what I was going to say anyway with John Whittington. Um, so just to finish up, the spread is -6 in favor of the Eagles. Do the Rams cover? Do the Eagles cover?
You know what? I do not know with this one because I could see this being a one score game. I could also see it being only a 3 point score game, but I could also see it being a 7 point score game. So I'm going to go with the bias and say we keep it much closer than a 6 point game.
We like the bias on this podcast. We like bias.
Yeah.
Um, I'll say same. I will say that Sean McVay will scheme well. I
This will
will
be
say,
the which I've this is a really weird, interesting start that Sean McVay is playing his 13th game as a playoff coach. He has never played the same team twice in all those games until
next
potentially
week.
next week if we get through and the team we expect get through. If the team we don't expect get through, that's 14 games without playing the same team twice.
The only thing one thing I know is that if there's going to be a week like this, I was like, okay, there's a lot more riding on it than there was that first week in September. But you and I had 3 games against each other in one weekend. And I don't think anyone's ever kept it as respectful as we did, with such mutual respect for each other. I don't know if it'll stay
Yeah.
the same, but I don't want the narrative all week. I don't want that. I don't want to spend a week going hearing Stafford's going back again. Stafford's going back again. Stafford going back. We know that the rest of that narrative are Detroit are going to try and force the narrative of Stafford and Kirby Joseph now hate each other. Um, but we all
The
know
thing
that
is,
the week after it's going to be Detroit Lions fans booed Kelly Stafford's children again, and I don't want that one either.
yeah, I think the difference is that the last time we played, well, sorry, the first time we played, and it was at Ford Field. It was your very first ever playoff game in however many years.
Yeah, and first
Then,
ever one at Ford
the,
Field, and
and then the one after that was Matt Stafford's first ever return in a regular game
yeah.
at Ford Field. So this doesn't have a narrative to it. This is just a playoff game. The only thing that you would say is this will be the Lions' what second NFCC game in
NFC
as many
Championship
years.
game, yeah.
Yeah.
2 years in a row. But the thing is, what we know about the NFL is the NFL love stories.
Oh yeah. It'll probably get played out that this will be Matt Stafford's revenge game for all the problems that his wife has had to endure. That's
Yeah,
how it'll
and
run.
Matthew Stafford's come back to run it back, and you know the team that the quarterback the Rams sold off with all your draft picks just to get Stafford in. One of them will end up going to a. One of them could go to a second Super Bowl. The other one could go to a second Super Bowl. Both of them, like it. There's a star. There will be storylines thrown around Stafford and Goff and shit with the NFL, and
You've also got to
likewise,
remember as well is Dan Campbell, and this was used by the Rams in our as you head into the training into the changing rooms. Was Matt Staff? Sorry, was Dan Campbell greeting Kevin O'Connor with
yeah, it was. See
"See
you in
you
two
in two
weeks.
weeks," and that got used very much like how you used. I think was it what we said about Jared Goff.
Yeah.
So
Um.
it got flipped on its head, and we've obviously got rid of them pesky Vikings. And that's probably going to get used now. If we beat the
Yeah.
Eagles, and I think it'll still be used because we're not expected to win this game.
Yeah.
That'll get used as the narrative now is the whole Dan Campbell being too cocky, not expecting to get the Rams.
So Kevin O'Connell and Dan Campbell a couple of days ago actually went out for a candlelit dinner, and that's what he meant. Um, you just need to be victims all the
Yeah.
time, and no one likes it, Sam. Um, no, I get it, and I don't hate any team finding whatever they want to get whatever motivation when when the chips are against you, or when you don't feel like there's something going against you, whatever gets you out of bed in the morning, kind of thing. Um, whatever makes you want to get up and just punch someone in the mouth, type stuff going on. I rate it. I respect it. If there's one thing I do respect, it's hustle. I respect the hustle. Um, I'm all here for it. So no, it will be a fun day. Sunday will be. I'm too biased to say that Saturday's not gonna be the worst because I'm gonna hate it. I know I'm
Yeah, but
gonna
you're
hate it.
also technically on the Sunday as well, so you're at 1 o'clock in the morning on the Sunday.
That's even. This is the thing, right? And I'm gonna say, my friends over in the States who I watch Lions games with, they will sit there and say, "Don't you just hate it when the Lions have night games and you have to wait until 8 o'clock, or you have more work all day and you've still got to wait a couple of hours until the Lions are on." And I'm like, No, 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 don't go," because I wake up on GMT. I may go to sleep on Eastern time, but I wake up on GMT.
Yeah.
I have 5/6 of a day to wait until this happens. I have 2/3 of a day to wait until this happens. You stop. Um, you don't get it. So Saturday, like, please, I'm gonna make this request of you, friends. Please periodically check in on me. I probably won't be okay. But I don't need like are you okay? I just need you alive? Yeah. Right. Okay. Cool. I just wanted to make sure. I can't wait.
In,
I can't
interest,
wait.
interestingly, for this Ram games, the over under is 44, which I think is quite low.
Yes, that was meant to be my next thing. Was saying
Because that's if you go with the 6 point spread, that's a 20, say a 25-19 game. Say if we're going to stick with the whole, you have to get 7 points, so it would be a 20, what, 26-19 game. Seems pretty low. I mean, and I do
yeah.
get that the Eagles defense is the number one defense in the league and that, but the Vikings defense was, what were they ranked this year in defense? Out of
Vikings
interest,
11th.
so they were the 11th ranked team, and we put up what? To be fair, I don't think we actually put up that many points on them, did we?
Bear in mind the 10th was the
27.
Texans. The Texans were 10th and the Bears were 12th.
Yeah,
I do think that helps, I guess, with some of the context as well for what
yeah,
it might maybe 10th, but it could be a really bad year for defense. And team got 30 ranked 30 points and came 10th. Like, this is just a terrible year. It means nothing. It's like being the small. It's like being the tallest midget. Well done. It means like
yeah.
you're 3 foot
But
two.
I just think it's that 44 seems quite low because I think, like I say, if we went based upon the game last time, there was 51 points in it,
Yeah.
and if we go based upon the game that we just played, which was 27-9, we're not going to hold the Eagles to 9 points. And if we can score 27 again, that means they
No.
only need to score 18 points to beat the spread.
AJ Brown and Devontae Smith are not bums like Justin Jefferson is. It's not. Um, I mean, to be fair, I wouldn't even say that's the problem. Justin Jefferson just never got out of a Meat Robertson's pocket in general. So that's a problem for the Vikings when he can't turn up. But no. All seriously, yeah, you're not going to hold that.
No.
And that's a Vikings team that, correct me if I'm wrong, but that was 3 field goals, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That wasn't like
No,
a
no,
touchdown and
no. It was
missed.
a field goal and a touchdown.
Right.
They missed the extra point. No, he went for 2 points and missed it.
Right. I
It
thought just
was it Jalen Naylor, I think, got it.
think I just wanted to triple. I could not remember. I couldn't remember off the top of my head. Long week. Actually, I
Yeah, I
just
think
got.
it was. Let me double check. I think it was a Jalen Naylor. Oh no, it wasn't. It was a TJ Hawkinson touchdown. But I remember them going for the 2 points, and
That's
he tried to throw to Jalen Naylor, and it
what
failed.
why it was so forgettable then. But it should be fun. It should be a very good weekend, and I can't wait. I really can't. What I
Yeah,
can wait for is Monday night for two reasons. One, don't want to watch that game. No one of those two teams is going to lift the trophy at the end of it. And having to choose a lesser of two evils, but that's not important. We will cover all this on the college pod, which will be released at some point this weekend. But knowing now that, this is once these four games are gone, it's three more games left in the NFL and a
mm.
flag football game in a couple
No,
of Sundays.
that's a mess about game. Still count.
Don't yeah, that don't really count. So it's sad. It's sad. We're so close to the end. I
Mm,
put it in a Discord that I'm in yesterday, and one wonderful said like the whole save the sadness until like the 10th of February, and I'm like, it gets to the point where it does kind of the reality of the situation does actually start to sink in. Um, and normally by now I'm just grateful that football's gone,
mm.
and I can't be anymore. But yeah,
Well,
it's
to
good.
me, it's only obviously the Super Bowl's the 8th or the 9th of Feb this year, is it?
9th of Feb.
9th of Feb.
I only
We've
know because
only
I had
got
to walk
really
into to walk into work and say like, I have got the 10th off, yeah. Oh look, I'm not coming in if I'm not.
we've only got 2 months and then the NFL drafts it. So that's the way I look at it. It's
Yeah, yeah,
2 months. It's like what not watching football for 2 months
yeah,
in England. So for me, it's a good chance for me to chill and then probably as soon as my birthday hits, I can enjoy the playoff, the draft
yeah.
drama that always prevails in April.
Actually, speak to that lady who's been wandering around your house for the last few years
Yeah,
and
yeah,
catch up,
and
find out a name.
yeah,
Um,
work out how old my child is now.
yeah, yeah. And what his name was as well.
Yeah,
But no, yeah, it's one of those, I guess. But luckily, you and I have been chatting recently. We'll have some things going on throughout the off season, some things to keep us going, not just draft related, but various other different things. But with that all being said, thank you very much. Go and watch some football. We'll go and watch some football this weekend. You and I will be back next week to talk about the championship.
hopefully, hopefully playing the championship game.
Hopefully, just for the sake of the content and the banter, it's you versus it's you and me going against
We're
each other.
we're the only two teams. Well, and Tom, we're the only
Top,
three teams left.
it's on the other, it's on the non-important side. That's not on the side where a Super Bowl winner's going to come from. Um, so yeah, I hope it's going to be a lot of fun. Hope we'll see you next week for the championship games. We'll see you over the weekend for the college football playoff, and next week for the review of that. Guys, so close to the UFL season. We've nearly made it, and we'll see you later.